I think socialism at this point is very relevant to make sense of what is going on in the world today. I think the socialist analysis gives some very good insights into what is happening. I think what we are facing now is the end of the Keynesian era. Basically, Keynes in the 1920s talked of the need for government to step in to prop up aggregate demand. When the system goes down into a recession, he said the government should come in and prop up the economy by creating demand. And that's the policy that we followed by all the countries, all the Western countries, the so-called free world, have been following that policy. So according to Keynes, when the economy is doing good, the government should tax and have a surplus. The economy goes into a downturn, the government should spend the money. But the problem now we see, like for example in Greece now, where the government debt is 1.6 times the GDP. I think in Japan it's 2-point-something times the GDP. So the problem is there's a tendency, a chronic tendency to underconsumption. A chronic tendency that there's not enough aggregate demand to prop the economy up. So the government has got to keep on spending. And I think that is the key to the problem that we are facing now in the world. That, for example, Greece, Ireland, Spain, Portugal, a whole number of countries are facing problems in raising capital because they're considered poorest, they can't raise money. So they're being asked to cut down welfare payments, cut down pension payments, cut down education, And so I think socialism gives you the tools to understand this. This is something that actually Marx talked about, of the internal contradictions within the capitalist system that will lead to the whole system being challenged. And this whole idea of underconsumption, overproduction was again very well elucidated by Paul Baran and Sweezy in the 60s. And I think we're seeing today a higher expression of that. See, basically what has happened is, with the unipolar world, where you can get a lot of industries could shift to poorer costs of, for the poorer nations for low cost of production, two things have happened. One is the companies that shifted and managed to produce cheaply have amassed huge amounts of profits, huge surpluses. On the other hand, the buying power of the people, of the working people, has come down because it shifts from a high-paying American or European side to a low-paying Asian or African side. Aggregate demand on a worldwide basis actually goes down. So you have now surplus in the hands of the rich corporations, which they can't invest in making more cars or TVs because there's not enough demand for them. So these guys then have to find an avenue for their surplus. And that's why you have the speculative financial bubbles, because they've got to invest in something. In fact, recently this guy called Mobius, this one of the Mobius, executive chairman of Templeton Asset Management, he's saying that the total value of derivatives in the world exceeds global GDP by 10.
Okay.
That means the speculative economy is 10 times the real economy. So all the surplus going into that. The reason for that is underconsumption. The reason for underconsumption is because capital is going to low cost, they have to pay less taxes. So this is the problem that the world is facing. And it's not something that governments can solve, because let's say UK or Europe tries to tax their corporations higher. They'll just shift to Vietnam or China or wherever they can get away with lower taxes. So it's something systemic, which the capitalist system itself is now basically powerless. Governments are powerless to solve this. So what we see now in Europe is governments are cutting back on their social expenditure. Pensions in France, education in UK, so a whole range of things in Ireland, all the welfare aspects are being cut down, so as to balance the budget, so they can borrow on the money markets. So I think socialism gives you a very, where does the money market come from? Who controls the money market? Is the rich corporations, 500 corporations. You see, there's something here. This is on the 2nd of June, NST. Millionaires hold 39% of global wealth. It's a lot of global wealth.
Yeah.
So this is all part in the investment corporation. And then they won't lend to Greece. They say you're a bad boy, you're not balancing your budget. You cut welfare, you cut healthcare, you cut education, then we lend you money. Otherwise we won't lend you money.
So they're asking the Greeks to first spend for themselves.
They're telling Greek to balance your budget. Show us you can balance your budget. So Greece is then cutting down on all the welfare, all the support for single mothers, support for unemployed people, support for the old people. All that is wrong there because this 39%, this is a small percent, not 39%. I think it's only like how many households are there? Only a small number of households, small number of families living this well are demanding that. So it's the situation like Greece now actually cannot get money from these guys. It's got to get money from EU, from other governments who think that Greece can't allow to go bankrupt. So I think this kind of analysis is something that I think the socialist methodology of analysis will give you very clear pictures of what is the problem. Because if you don't understand the problem, you can't put solutions. And socialism, I think, gives you a very clear idea of what is going on.
In Malaysia, let's say, for example, change will, the things that will trigger change when the people will experience it firsthand. Meaning that starvation, hungriness. That will like prompt a certain revolution, a certain need to change. But how would you see it in a country like Malaysia, where people are extremely well fed and they seem to think that things are okay and they become rather complacent about the whole situation. But how would change be generated in a country like that?
Percent of the population earning less than $2,000 a month, and I don't think they are extremely well. I think they are under a lot of pressure. Housing cost expensive. To buy a house, $60,000. The monthly payment every month is about $350. So I think a lot of them are facing tremendous pressure. True. I think our level of living has changed compared to 30, 40 years ago. People were living in rural areas on bicycles, no TV in the house and all that. That has changed. A lot of people have motorbikes and cars and all that. But they're also under tremendous debt. Now, for example, education. To become a nurse, you got to take a PTPTN loan, $55,000. Then you got to pay that back whether or not you get a job. So I think there's a lot of financial pressure, especially on the urban population. And every rise in cost of fuel, cost of sugar, affects that 40% very, very adversely. So I don't think, you can say they're all very comfortable. They're under a lot of debt, a lot of frustration. You've got to work extra job, you've got to work overtime. There's no time for your children. Housing is deplorable, very small houses, cramped. They are a lot of stress, below the total 40% of the population. So I think that is why it's very important for the socialist analysis to tell them what is the cause of the problem. The cause of the problem is not other ethnic group. Because some people are trying to drive it that way and maintain their own thing. It's very important for socialism to say, look, the cause of the problem is not there. There are poor among all the ethnic groups. And there are, in the rich stratum, all the ethnic groups also there. It's not a race problem. It's a problem of division of the wealth in this country. And I think we need to come and talk about that very clearly. And I think the socialists are well endowed intellectually for that. That's our whole analysis, you see.
Talking to the youngsters. They have been indoctrinated with the idea that socialism is a bad thing. Like for example, they've been indoctrinated with the idea that socialism doesn't believe in the idea of God, the religion, and also the connection between socialism and communism, which we all know that the word communist has always been related related to the word terrorist. I mean, organized communist has been like, when the word communist is mentioned, it's always, the word organized is always in front. Just that, first, what is actually, just to make things clear to these people who are asking all these questions, what is actually the difference between socialism and communism?
Actually, they come from the same body of thought, Socialists as well as communists believe in a society that is based on solidarity of human beings, and not on a. See, the capitalist system, the whole capitalist system, Adam Smith's fairy tale is, you be as selfish as you want, you be as greedy as you want, you do entirely for your own self-interest. There's an invisible hand that will settle everything, which is actually bullshit. Whereas the socialist ideology is that we should look after each other. We are all in this together. We are all brothers in a way. We must uphold solidarity. So from that point of view, the essence of caring for the poor, caring for the sick, of having solidarity is much closer to the values of religions, of all religions, than is capitalism. There is greed, materialism, look after your
totally opposed.
Totally opposed, But that's not to say that there's been the socialist experiments and the communist experiments in the last 100 years. There have been big mistakes, there have been big problems, there have been some errors, some brought on by circumstances, some unforced errors, there's been repression, there have been mistakes. So when
you're referring to Russia?
I'm talking to Russia, I'm talking to Cambodia, I'm talking about our own MCP itself, there have been mistakes. But there's a situation of not throwing out the baby and the bathwater kind of thing. We've got to see what were the mistakes. And are the mistakes intrinsic to socialism? Or are the mistakes historically specific, certain conditions? I mean, like for example, Russia was a backward country in 1917. And they had to industrialize under very, very severe constraints. They're facing neutralizing Europe. They were always fearing invasion by the Europeans, capitalist Europeans. It actually happened under Nazi Germany. So they actually had a very rigorous authoritarian regime to industrialize. So I think one can put it in that context. But it's not to say the gulags didn't happen. I think the gulags did happen. There was no democracy in Russia. I mean, there were mistakes. But we socialists in Malaysia feel that we can build socialism for this century must be economic equality and solidarity, plus full political democracy. Something like what Chavez is doing in Venezuela, where you're using referendums, you're using people involved in the process. That you must bring in, there must be a check and balance in the socialist process. You can't say the party knows all, central committee knows all. I think that cannot work like what happened. It has happened previously. So I think, my thing is, yes, mistakes have happened, but those mistakes are not intrinsic to the concept of socialism. And we go further to say, if you think the socialist ideals and socialist dreams are not attainable, then all our religious leaders were wrong. To say care for the poor, live a life of solidarity, you know what I mean? The whole concept within religion, the core of religions, is very similar to us. So if we are wrong, then we are in good company.
Do you have